So then things went well, and you decided that now you're moving on and you're going to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So how did the selling process start then? And you sold through Thomas.
Well, at my first thought of selling, I emailed Sally and asked what would be the next steps, saying I was pleased with my experience in the past, and so she connected me with Tom. So when I first contacted Tom, I was only considering the idea of selling, and so he came to my place and walked around and made some suggestions, and we went through the details. And at that time we decided to wait because it was in November, and decided that probably wasn't the best time to go on the market. Meanwhile, I knew what steps I needed to take to be ready for very early spring. I guess February was when we listed.
So what about the selling process? Was there any scary parts to that?
The selling process was actually remarkably smooth. Because I had that meeting in November and I knew what steps to take, we had our painters. I mean, we basically decided one day that we were going to sell for sure, and then within a week I had painters come in and paint the place. We did some decluttering, and it was ready for market within a week. So it was surprisingly smooth. I was more nervous about the selling. Of course, the time between the offer and all of the conditions being waived, I was a basket case, but there was nothing that I could do during that time.
Well, so what was the most exciting part?
Definitely when everything was settled. I was always hedging my bets as the offer came in and as lots of people were viewing. I was just waiting till that moment when it was finished, and when it was, I was very excited, and it didn't take long.
Okay, so we already talked about, what did Tom recommend anything else to do before listing your home? I mean, he went through what you should do inside and that. What about the, you had to order a status certificate, and what was the advantage of ordering that ahead of time?
Well, the biggest thing about having the status certificate ahead of time was the chance to review it and make sure it was accurate, while still having it ready in the moment that a potential buyer requested it. So it was ready to go right away, because those timelines, it does cut down on that time between the offer and everything being settled.
Okay, and how important was it, do you think, to have the full color feature sheet, the video, and the web presence in getting your condo sold?
The photos and the feature sheets, I think, were huge. I counted every day when I came home to see how many of them had been taken, and people who were coming to see the place were definitely walking out with the feature sheets. And as I said, it was less than a week before we had an offer, so whatever it was, it worked.
So what happened when an offer came in? How was the offer process handled?
Well, I received a phone call from Tom saying that there was an offer, and he sent it to me ahead of time. We talked about it on the phone and went through all of the different steps, and there was some offer, counter-offer, offer, counter-offer, until I think we both ended up with something. I know I was pleased with where the price ended up, and then Tom came over to my place with the contract to sign, and we took it from there.
So you've bought and you've sold, Sally and with Tom, and so what about some overall thoughts, final thoughts about both processes, and how they both impacted you, and just how both processes were as a whole?
The processes were quite smooth. The idea is stressful, But I think buying and selling through Sally and Tom took some of that stress away. I find it to be actually quite an onerous task, but having good advice takes the pressure off, and at least, you know, there was someone to say, this is normal, or, you know, don't get too caught up in one particular house, things work out. And I don't know, I really appreciate their calming influence in what is a difficult decision either way.
Okay, and so down the road, you might be doing this process again. Would you recommend Tom and Sally, and why?
Okay, I certainly would recommend Tom and Sally. I look at other people who've gone through the process, and I feel like I've had quick response to any questions and solid advice, and everyone who sees the feature sheets are just blown away. So I think they did a great job, and I felt comfortable with them, and that's important to me, is that connection. We will now. I'm not going to be buying on my own, so my partner and I are looking at possibly buying a house with the next purchase. So we will certainly be contacting Sally at that time. But for now, we're going to save up for that down payment.
Okay, great.
Okay, you're welcome.